everybody. Welcome to the joy of cooking with Michelle. Tonight we are making comforting chicken stew. How perfect for this weather that we're having recently. And this is a Jamie Oliver recipe with a few modifications, not too many, just two. And I have started on the top of my kitchen stovetop on my stovetop in my oven. And what I've done is I've taken, to begin with, 4 slices of bacon. Now, not the back bacon, but the side bacon. And this smoky flavor is what we're looking for. And so I've got a head start with this, and I've chopped them up into about 3/4 inch lengths. And what we have to do is brown this first. So you're going to see how this plays out. It's a very fun recipe, very simple, not too many ingredients, and special ingredient, there's some red wine. So if you have any left over from the weekend, perfect time to use it up right now. But not if it's like a $30 bottle of wine. Don't be using that. Get yourself something middle of the line, like a house red wine or something that you can use. So I happen to have some left over from the weekend, so this is perfect. And I want to tell you that I am using that simple concept, thinking what can we add to the recipe to make it healthier, and what can we take away. So at the beginning of this recipe, we preheat the oven to 375 degrees, so I've done that. And I've cut the bacon up already. And what we add to the bacon is a tablespoon of fennel seeds. And you can use, we're using thyme, so you can use either fresh or dried. And I had some dried, so what I did is I just pulled it off the small little branches and just rolled it between my fingers like this. And so I'm going to add that. And then the other thing that's super interesting is it calls for 4 garlic cloves that are not minced but sliced. So we add those all together into a big pan. Now, the recipe says what we should do is we should be using a big roasting pan to do this. But then the size that it gives us is 9 by or 11 by 14. And then I thought, I have a casserole dish, but that describes for me closer to my lasagna pan. And the idea is that this is supposed to be just a 1-pan dish. It's not going to work out so well for me because my lasagna dish is Pyrex. And Pyrex is not really good to cook on top of the stove. It's good for inside the stove, but not on top of the burner. So I can already smell the garlic. And what we want to do is we want to cook the bacon and the herbs, the seasonings all together until it's lightly golden brown. I also think, technically, if we were to cook the bacon and the garlic at the same time, the garlic would get brown much faster. So the moral of the story is don't mince the garlic really small. You might want to get a head start on the bacon like I did. The recipe also calls for, when you start out in the pan, to use a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I thought to myself, the bacon is going to have a lot of fat in it already, but I'm just following the recipe. I think that it's going to be a lot of delicious flavors all mixed in together. Now there we go. It's pretty browned already. And I'm judging by the goldenness of the bacon and also the golden color of the garlic. This is such a cool recipe. So what we do from here is we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of red wine. I was expecting that would happen. And then what we do is we're kind of making the base for this. You're going to see. From here, what we do is we have a large can of tomatoes. And they want us to use whole plum tomatoes. I found these no added salt tomatoes, so I've used these before, so I know they're easy to use. And so you can either get 2 19-ounce cans, small cans, or one 28-ounce can. We need to use the juice in everything. And the idea is that what I would do is drain them a little bit in here first. Make sure your hands are nice and clean. And then what we do is we just take the tomatoes and squish them a little bit through our fingers. Oh, don't squish it and get it all over yourself like I am. Oh my goodness. That's why we have aprons, right? So you take the whole tomatoes like this and just squish it through your fingers. That's what Jamie Oliver would say. Just squish it through your fingers. And it's good because you're going to get the juice out. I would hold it. This is why it's nice to make it in a deeper pot first. Because when you squish it, and I'm putting my thumb through it first so that it doesn't squish all over the place. And so then you're going to have pieces that are, bigger, but it's going to be mashed, pretty mashed in your fingers. So this is the fun part of the recipe. Your kids might enjoy doing this together. So again, all the juice is going to go in. I can't say that I think that this would be easier to do with 2 hands or 1 hand, like squishing it together. But I would recommend holding it in a deep pan and doing it rather controllably. There we go. Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. Then what we do is we have 2 cans. I have the smaller cans, cannellini beans. So I was looking around everywhere in Food Basics, what are the cannellini beans? Then I saw a can of white kidney beans, and then in brackets it had cannellini. So I thought, okay, now I know I've got the right thing. Again, the Life Smart, the blue label, low in sodium. So I'm going to add 2 cans of that. What we need to do is rinse them and drain them really well first. Believe it or not, we're almost at the end of this recipe. It takes only about 15 minutes to prep ahead of time. Once we get it prepped, we just put everything together and we bring this to a little bit of a simmer. I imagine one of the reasoning is to heat it all the way through before we put it in the oven. And if you preheat your oven, that's a good idea. Oh, so it is rather juicy. I was wondering to myself when I saw this recipe, how when it cooks at 375 for an hour, it's going to simmer and become stew-like. I thought, how's it going to have enough liquid in it? But you're going to see, I'm going to put it in the lasagna dish. You're going to see how it's going to fill it up so nicely. And again, the tomatoes, there's going to be big chunks of the tomatoes in there also. So I turned up the stove, the oven, stovetop a little bit higher so that it will come to a boil, because that's what they want us to do. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that this is for chicken, for the more economical cuts of chicken. So you can use chicken legs with the bone in. You can use chicken thighs with the bone in. You could use them with the skin on, of course, if you wanted to. Now, let's talk about health here for a minute. We know that bacon is not something that it's not something we should have regularly in our nutrition all the time. I'm talking a couple times a week. if you have maybe once a week, sorry, I'm getting tomatoes on my forehead, this is hilarious. If you have bacon, you know, once a week for Sunday brunch, that's okay if you're only having 2 or 3 strips of bacon. Now, bacon is something that I usually only have no more than once a month, myself personally. And you probably know this already, I don't eat a lot of meat. And when I do eat meat, it's usually fish or chicken. And if there's skin on the chicken, I will pull the skin off. So what I did was, in this circumstance, I love the idea of using, you can use either skinless, I think skinless chicken thighs would be wonderful. I just happen to have in my freezer a few chicken breasts that were skinless, so I cut them up. The skin will give it more flavor. You can also cook it with the skin on, and then just take the skin off before you eat it, right? Now, keep in mind, this recipe is that even if it was for 4 people and you had 4 chicken legs in it, everybody would have a chicken leg. Keep in mind that with the beans added to this recipe, that's also a good source of protein. So this is one of those recipes where you could use, say, 6 chicken thighs, and when the stew cooks, it's going to thicken, and the beans are also going to be a substantial part of your protein for this meal. So that's a win-win situation. You can stretch your protein dollar by buying a less expensive cut of meat, and you can use less meat because this is a meat and bean combination recipe. Now, this is just about simmering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chicken breasts. What you can see what I did is I kind of cut them up into chicken thigh size pieces. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to season these, and that way I'm not going to salt the dish and the chicken. So just with a little bit of Himalayan sea salt, some nice cracked pepper, and then you're going to see. What I've also done is I've taken, maybe a dozen cremini mushrooms, kept them whole, and I'm going to add that also to this dish. So you're going to see. Now, I think this is perfect. What we do is just bring this up to a simmer, and just to make sure it's heated all the way through. Now, let me show you how this works. It's good we're doing this on top of the stove. Now, I'm going to very carefully, I don't know if you can see that. If I leave that over there, you probably can't. You know what? Maybe I could just put it right here. You probably could see that. And then very carefully, I'm going to take my big pot and I'm going to pour the contents out into my lasagna size. Whoa, you do need a huge pan for this recipe. My lasagna size pan, that's what I'm going to do. And just going to do that. Remember, this is a stew. It's going to be a stew. How much fun is that going to be? So this is great. When you get home from work, you could even have this in the fridge, and then you could just heat it up, put the chicken on top, add a few mushrooms or peppers if you wanted to. The recipe didn't have the mushrooms in. I added that myself. That's one of those things. What can you add to the recipe that your family really loves to pump up the nutrition? And I'm a big fan of cremini mushrooms. So that's what I decided to do. And then I just take my chicken, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it in the stew. And then what's going to happen is it's going to cook for about an hour, and it will cook the chicken. Halfway through, you kind of take it out, agitate it a little bit. I knew this would be so wonderful with these mushrooms. So again, like I said, you could even just use 4 chicken legs if you wanted to. I think this looks so cute, so delicious, and it has a nice appeal to me. It has a nice appeal. You can see the bacon. This is quite a hands-on dish. It's going to be wonderful when it's done. I can't wait. Imagine I have to wait a whole hour for this to cook. But then that's great because you get home from work, boom, you throw it in the oven, or it's a great Sunday dish, and you put it in the oven. You don't have to think about it. You can go away and do something, set the timer on the oven for an hour, and then there you go. So it needs the hour to cook all the way through and to reduce. So there we go. That's what it looks like. I can't tip it down anymore because it's very liquidy. It fills the whole lasagna pan. So here's a great dish that would probably easily feed 6 people. And if you had roasted potatoes with it and a nice garden salad, boom, there's your whole meal. Okay, that's it for today. I'm going to put a picture of this up with the recipe accompanying it in about an hour once it's cooked. I'm so excited. I can't wait to try it. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you again next week at the same time. Bye now.